Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। I am very happy to offer this talk at the feet of Ramana Maharshi ji, whose ashram I have been to in Tiruvannamalai, whose presence I have strongly felt, and whose blessings I have received while also teaching two of his brilliant texts, Upadesha Saram and Saddarshanam. So today we will look at some key events of his life and then his teachings. Sri Ramana Maharshi was a jeevanmukta. He was free, enlightened while living. He was bestowed with the title of Maharishi, and his devotees addressed him as Bhagavan. Sri Ramana was born on 30th December 1879 in Tamil Nadu. He lived for about 70 years and had his Mahasamadhi in April 1950. Sri Ramana was also known as Venkataraman in childhood. He lost his father at an early age, and both he and his elder brother Nagaswami, they lived with their uncle in Madurai, which is the city that is famous for Meenakshi Devi's temple. Venkataraman's relatives and friends, they didn't notice anything extraordinary about him, except for the fact that he enjoyed good health and he could sleep so deeply that he was oblivious to everything around him. Till the age of about 16, he spent his time in studies. And the first notable event that happened in his life was at the age of 16, when he asked a visiting relative, "Where are you coming from?" The person said, "Arunachala." Just hearing that word brought such a thrill to him, because since childhood, Arunachala was Ishvara, his father, all knowing, all kindness. And then he learned that Arunachala was a mountain. It also had a big temple of Shiva. So, as some of you all know, Arunachala is considered the Kailasa of the south. It has been the home to many sadhus, many siddhas, even now, for hundreds and thousands of years. The whole mountain is looked upon as Shivalinga. The second notable event was when Venkataraman was sitting in a room in his uncle's house. Although there didn't seem anything wrong with his health, a sudden violent fear of death overtook him. There was no reason for the fear, but that shock that I'm going to die drove him to actually experiment. And what he started to say to himself was, "I'm going to die." The shock of death drove his mind inward, and he said, "Well, what does death mean? What is it that is dying?" The body dies. He then imitated a corpse, a dead body, and he laid there with his body stretched, stiff, held his breath, shut his lips so that no sound could emerge. And then he said to himself, "Now this body is dead. It will be carried to the cemetery, burnt there, reduced to ashes. But am I dead with the death of the body? Is the body I? The body is motionless, it is inert, but I feel the full force of the personality. I feel like I am other than the body. I am I, the Atma that is distinct from the body. The body dies, but the Atma cannot be touched by death. What this means is that I am the deathless Atma. Later, Ramana Maharishi himself reflected on this incident, saying that all of it just flashed in his mind as living truth, which he received directly without any thought process. For him, the fear of death had vanished once and for all. After this experience, he lost interest in everything around him. He regularly started to go to the Meenakshi temple and pray for unswerving bhakti. His elders scolded him, but there was no effect. Then once he was writing an imposition from his grammar class, and suddenly while writing, he got so disgusted, he kept the paper aside, closed his eyes, and started meditating. His elder brother, who was in the room, saw this and said, "What business does a fellow have here when he behaves like this?" That hit Venkataraman. And he thought, yeah, that's true. I have no business here. I'm going to leave home, my relations, and everything for good. What he remembered was Arunachala. And so he took 3 rupees and took a train northward, left a note behind saying that I am going to seek my father by his command. As the purpose itself is meritorious, no sorrow needs to be felt for the absence of this. No money needs to be wasted in searching for this. Okay, note that he says this, referring to body mind, and the note was not signed. He went straight to the temple at Tiruvannamalai and said, "Father, by your command, I have come here." And then he came out of the temple, shaved off his head, threw his clothes in the nearby pond, and wore a small piece of cloth called the kaupina. And of course, he had the sacred thread. At that time, it started raining, and so naturally he had a bath, went back into the temple, and started his japa. He reached Tiruvannamalai on September 1st, 1896, and from then till his Mahasamadhi in 1950, he remained for 54 years in that place. For the next 11 years after he had reached Tiruvannamalai, he observed total maunam, silence. Then another interesting event. In 1907, Kavya Kantha Ganapati Muni, a great scholar, came to Sri Ramana for darshanam because people had heard a lot about him. So he did namaskara to him, and with a choking voice he said, "I've read a lot, I've done a lot of japa, but till now I have not understood what is the real meaning of tapas. So please guide me." Ramana looked at him for 15 minutes and he broke his silence of 11 years with these words: "Inquire into the source from where aham, the I notion, arises. The mind will abide there. That indeed is the real tapas." While chanting the mantra, if you focus your attention on where the sound emerges from, the mind will be absorbed in that silence that is awareness. That is tapas. Ganapati Muni's doubt was resolved. He gathered his disciples and then said, from now on, this great being will be called Ramana Maharishi. During his life, Ramana Maharshi lived as a free person. He would generally sit in a hall in silence, would speak little. Sometimes he would answer questions. He loved animals, especially the cows of the ashrama. And he would do a lot of the work of the ashram that came about where he stayed. Towards the end, he had throat cancer and he refused treatment before his final passing away or Mahasamadhi. He would say that teaching was based on his own experience and whatever he had understood. If someone were to ask him, what is God? He would reply with the question, who are you? Until the questioner understands who he is, he cannot ask about God. And if he understood who he is, then he won't have to ask the question. There are 3 myths about Sri Ramana that I hope will be clarified by the end of our session today. 1. Ramana Maharishi only spoke about self-inquiry. That's not true. He did speak a lot about karma and Ishvara, as we will see. 2. Ramana Maharishi was a self-realized person and had no guru. He recognized Arunachala, the mountain, as Shiva, as his father and guru. Yes, he did not have a formal guru, but he had discussed the Shastra for almost 25 years with Vedanta scholars who would visit him and share what was written in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Upanishads. And Ramana Maharishi would confirm what was said in the scriptures as correct. In his book, Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi by Swami Ramananda Saraswati, the various replies to different visitors and devotees reflects verses from the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and that's very interesting to note. The third myth, Ramana Maharishi taught in silence. Again, that's not true. He did spend a lot of time in Maunam, but he answered all kinds of questions. He wrote a few Tamil poems, 5 hymns to Arunachala, Upadesha Saram, Saddarshanam. He translated works like Viveka Chudamani, Dakshinamurti Stotram, and Atma Bodha by Jagadguru Shankaracharya into Tamil. And his replies to disciples were reflected in Ramana Gita, Talks with Ramana Maharshi, Day by Day with Bhagwan, and letters from Sri Ramana Ashram. Ramana once said, I did not eat. They said I was doing upavasa. I did not speak. They said I was in maunam. I closed my eyes. They said I was in samadhi. Ishvara, only you know what the truth is. When we come across Jnani's lives, it's very inspiring to know more. But that inspiration may last for a short while. We can convert that inspiration into our living reality by their teachings in their own words. So we tune the frequency of our minds to their minds. And so we will quickly look at his own teaching called Upadesha Saram. Upadesha Saram has 30 verses which contain the essence of Vedantic teaching written in a cryptic manner. One of his students, Muruganar, was trying to complete writing the Upadesha of Shiva to different sadhus. He felt stuck, and so he said to Ramana Maharshi, Bhagwan, please write the essence of what Shiva taught the sadhus. So Maharishi wrote in Tamil, which was then translated in Sanskrit and is now known as the essence of the teaching Upadesha Saram. In the opening verses, he points to the limitation of karma. And we look at it. Karturajnaya prapyate phalam karma kim param karma tajjadam. Karma gives phalam, results. How? By the laws of Bhagavan. How can karma, which is jadam, be limitless? Is the question he asks. Because we know that any karma, any action by a human being can give us 4 results. It can create something, utpadanam. It can transform something, vikaryam. It can purify something, samskaryam. And you can reach a place, gamanam. But all these results of karma phala are limited. Shloka 2. Kriti mahodadhau patana karanam phalamashashvatam gati nirodhakam. The whole day we are involved in karma, but the result of karma is limited, and it can act as an obstacle to knowledge because karma is the cause for us to fall into the vast ocean of karma and not to moksha. So while our pursuits of dharma, artha, kama are valid and important, karma can make us stuck. How? I'll tell you a small story. There was one sadhu who was trying to protect his kaupina. He had only two. He went for a bath, and then as he was coming out, he saw the rat eating one of his kaupina. So then he was left with only one. He spoke to someone, and then they said, you should get a cat who will eat up the rat. Then your kaupina will be safe. So he said, okay, gets a cat. Then he realizes, oh, the cat needs milk. So looks around for milk. Somebody gives for a few days. Then they suggest, well, we can't keep giving you milk. Why don't you just have a cow? Because the cat needs milk all the time. Then he wondered, who will take care of the cow? Then one lady of the village suggested, maybe you should marry. Your wife, she will take care of you. She will take care of the cow. He does that. Then he has a child, and when he is putting the kaupina on the child, as the child is growing up, he remembers where it all started. So karma gives limited results, and we can be happy with the fact that the results are limited, but not expect the infinite from it. But then karma can also make us stressful. So then what shall we do? Shloka 3. Ishwararpitam nechaya kritam chitta shodhakam mukti sadhanam. Karma that is done with a dedication to Ishvara purifies the mind and becomes the means for mukti, sadhanam. So indicating karma yoga here, all karma is possible because of the laws of karma. Karma gives us punya papa, which is translated into sukha dukkha, happiness and sorrow. Ishvara resides as the karmadhyakshaha. So that I can do karma is because of Ishvara's grace. And so I offer it, I do arpanam of my karma to Ishvara, accept all karma phala as his prasada. This is what frees me from the binding nature of raga and dvesha. Ragas and dveshas are our very strong likes and dislikes. I should be this way, you should not be this way, you're not okay, etc. Our different reactions that create conflict, which can be neutralized into preferences. Shloka 4. What about bhakti? Kaya vangnaha karyamuttamam pujanam japas chintanam kramat. Puja, worship, japa, chanting, chintanam, meditation, being the work of body, kaya, vak, speech, and manas, mind. They are all very, very beneficial. A pure mind is a non-reacting mind, a mind that is at peace with everything, with parents, at peace with the world, at peace with oneself. And so he indicates this sadhana for chitta shuddhi as a necessity. Then, having spoken about these three ways, he now says how to do the puja. Jagata Ishadhi Yukta Sevanam Ashtamurti Bhrit Deva Pujanam. To do puja, you serve the Jagat with the attitude that it is Ashtamurti. Not only in the temple, this entire Jagat is a combination of space, Akasha, Agni, fire, Vayu, air, water, Apaha, Prithvi, earth. And of course, the sun and the moon, Aditya, Chandra, and the conscious being. With reference to 7, therefore 8, all of this are forms of Isha. And therefore, this is your Deva Puja. The Ishavasya Upanishad also says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam. All that is here is Ishvara. Every form is Ishvara. And therefore, the glory of this land is you can pray to your mother, Matra Devo Bhava, Pitra Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. You can pray to the trees, the sun, the moon, Gangaji, to Kanya, during Kanya Puja, Navaratri. You can do seva with the talents and abilities that you have. And he would also say, with your kaya, you walk around Arunachala, because Arunachala is Shiva. So the Pradakshina takes about 14 kilometers. And he would say, even if you don't have Shraddha, just the action of doing it, it will purify you. Just as a fire burns whoever touches it, whether they believe in it or not, the fire will help. So the Arunachala will bless everyone who walks around it. Of course, he himself walked around Arunachala countless times. Then the question is, okay, how to do japa or this oral worship? Okay, mantra shloka 6. Uttamastva uttamastavat uchamandataha chittajam japa dhyanamuttamam. Better than loudly singing of his praises or doing japa is murmuring, and better than that is meditating, silent chanting. Om Namah Shivaya. Japa is a repetition of the mantra. What will the next thought be? You give the mind an occupation, not to think here and there. Om Namah Shivaya, next thought. What about the next one? Om Namah Shivaya. So my namaskara unto Shiva, all that is auspiciousness. Oh, but my mind is going all over. No, no worries. Wherever your mind goes, it is Shiva, it is Ishvara. Just keep bringing it back. Then, what is the nature of chintanam or contemplation? Ajyadharaya srotasa samam sarala chintanam viralataf param. The nature of contemplation needs to be like unbroken thinking of Bhagavan. Just like when you pour ghee, the flow is continuous, it is effortless. So that's exactly how. And thinking about Bhagavan is not thinking about an entity that is independent of this creation. In fact, whatever you think about is really the thought of Bhagavan. And this is something to be understood. Then with what attitude shall one do this? Bheda bhavanat sohamityasau bhavana bhida pavani mata. Instead of meditating with an attitude of duality, that I, the meditator, am different from Ishvara, what is the non-dual vision? Saha aham. Soham. That is purifying, and it is the vision of the Shruti. Bheda, difference, makes us feel disconnected. I like apples, you like oranges. We can be different, but you try to prove that you are better than me. Then that's when that duality can create problems. Why? Because for us, duality is reality. So doing japa, I see that this form is completely pervaded by Ishvara. Material is Bhagavan, intelligence is Bhagavan, Ishvara. So I am not separate from Ishvara. The sound, Om Namah Shivaya, is Shiva. The silence between the different letters is also Shiva. Saha Aham. Then what is the highest devotion? Oh, it's non-duality. Bhava Shunya Sad Bhava Susthitihi Bhavana Balat Bhaktiruttama. The best devotion, the best bhakti is what? Abiding in oneself, free from the duality of the seer and the seen, that is brought about by the strength of repeated contemplation, saha aham. When we say aham, I, we need not think of the limited body and mind sitting in the chair in one corner of the room. But we recognize that this body, mind, sense complex is Ashtamurti Bhrit. That it is consciousness, and as though this name and form. So what is here? Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande. I exist. I am self-evident. I am the one that is even aware of my thoughts and my emotions. What I am aware of, I am not. I am more than the body and the mind. Shloka 10. Ritasthale manasvasthata kriya bhakti yoga bodhat ja nishchitam. By the right attitude of karma yoga, by japa, by puja, the mind abides in the heart. One is integrated, one is together. And so bhakti, yoga, bodha, all of them help. This is the confirmed view of the Shruti. Then suppose someone says, oh, I can't do puja, I can't do japa, what shall we do? How to quieten the mind? Ramana Maharshi has an answer. Shloka 11. Vayurodhanat liyate manaha jalapakshivod rodha sadhanam. Just like a net is used to capture the bird, the way we control our prana, our breath, becomes a means to control the mind. And by control of the mind is absorbed. Chittavayavas kriya yutaha shakhayordvai shakti mulaka. Both the mind and the prana have the ability to know and to act. So they are like the two branches that are coming from one Shakti, that is Maya. Maya Shakti, the apparent cause of this manifestation, is Trigunatmika. Sattva expresses as the mind, Rajas expresses as the prana. So if you're able to control one, you can control the other. You regulate the prana, the mind becomes calm. You regulate the mind, the prana becomes even. And that's why it is an important secondary sadhana for us to adopt. Ramana Maharishi also says you can quieten the mind through vichara inquiry. Laya vinashane ubhaya rodhane laya gatam punar bhavati nomritam. There are two forms of the control of the mind. One is absorption, the other is vinashaha, destruction. Now, the mind that has attained absorption, laya, is born again. It's very easy for the mind to go into an absorption because it happens if you're listening to music or dance and even drugs. Of course, I'm not recommending that. But there is a resolution. Still, after that condition is over and the mind is back out of the absorption, it is still ignorant. And therefore, the experience of bheda, difference between one and the other, continues. It has not gone. So there is only temporary peace of mind. Then after that, mind is in pieces. A quiet mind is necessary, but quietness is not enlightenment. So then what else does he say? The second form of mind absorption is nasha. Destruction of the mind? No. We will see what it means. Prana bandhanat lina manasam ekachintanat nashamatye tadaha. So the mind that has gained a certain absorption by regulating the breath is destroyed once and for all by contemplating on ekam, that ekachintanam, the one non-dual self. So here we are not trying to destroy our thoughts, because honestly, our thoughts are not the cause of sorrow. Then what is the cause of sorrow? The mistake of taking the thoughts as I, Atma, is the cause for sorrow. I repeat, the mistake of taking the thoughts as I, Atma, is the cause for sorrow. Atma, that is self-evident, cannot be covered by any thought. It's like saying the sun is covered by the clouds and then sun is gone. Hey, the clouds are seen in the light of the sun. The sun is as though covered. Then what else can we do about this inquiry into the mind? He says a few more things. Nashtamanasot krishtya yoginaha krityamasti kim swastitim yataha drishyavaritam chittamatmanaha chitvadarshanam tattvadarshanam. So by recognizing that I am other than the thoughts, for the exalted yogi whose mind is resolved, who is at peace with everything, and who has attained one's nature, what is there to be done? Our hearts long for fullness because we think fullness, completeness, happiness lies out there. And we don't spend enough time thinking, doing an inquiry into the nature of the mind in the light of the Shastra. But when you withdraw the mind from the world of perception and dwell on what is the nature of the mind, then truth dawns. So, what is the nature of the self inquiry? And this is what Ramana Maharishi became extremely famous for. So, there are beautiful shlokas here. 17. Manasam tukim margane krite naiva manasam marga arjavat. When an inquiry is undertaken, what is the mind? Into the nature of the mind, we find that there is no mind. No mind doesn't mean shunya, but the inquiry has to be direct. So then what is there? Vrittya, vrittayastvaham vrittimashritaha vrittayo mano vidhi aham manaha. What we call the mind, and within that you can include your thoughts, your emotions, your memories, the I notion, description of the ahankara. All of them are thoughts and they are vritti pravaha. They come, they go, they come, they go. Then what is it that doesn't come and go? What is the root of all thoughts? It is the notion I, aham. So really speaking, an inquiry into the mind is an inquiry into I, aham. What is that? Ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvataha I patatyaham nija vicharanam. So Ramana Maharshi tells the seeker, for the one who inquires, from where does this aham, I thought, arise? You dwell on it, the I notion drops. This is self-inquiry. So we have to understand this a little bit. See, in every vritti, in every thought, there is Sat Buddhi and Asad Buddhi. So Shankaracharya in his Gita Bhashya speaks very beautifully for 2.16. Sat Buddhi is what? Isness. Asad Buddhi is a reference to name and form. So now, when I look around and I say chair is, table is, phone is, voice is. And as I spoke, the form in your mind kept changing. First it was the chair, then it got replaced by the table, then it got replaced by the phone, and so on. The form gets displaced, but I, that is isness, did it get displaced? Chair is, table is, voice is, phone is. Isness never gets displaced. Isness always is, and that isness is I consciousness. It's the same isness that is there when thoughts come and they go. That changeless awareness of that which is changing, which are our thoughts. 20. Ahaminashabhajyahamaham taya spurati ritsvayam paramapurnasat. Aham, aham, aham. This is how the self-evident I consciousness shines by itself. And when the I notion is destroyed, I notion meaning I associated with body, mind, etc., then aham, aham, aham consciousness shines by itself. So this ahankara is ahankaroti iti ahankara, I do, therefore I am. This entity associated with body, mind, who thinks that body, mind is the only reality. If the ahankara is understood, it is the Atma. So this pot or pot-bellied fellow thought, I am this limited pot. And limited pot with few cracks. Cracked pot had complexes also. Lot of people had lot of things to say about it. So who was the one that was identifying with the form? Ahankara. But actually, what is the truth of that pot? It is clay. In clay, there is an event called birth and a lot of experiences. And in clay, there is an event called death. It is only an event. The form changes, but at least for the pot, clay always is. So that aham, atma, is that which always is. It is the basis of all the forms. And that is what is revealed when we undertake the inquiry in the light of the Shastra. 21. Idamaham pada bhikya manvaham aham milinake apyalaya sattaya. When we go into deep sleep, the ahankara, aham, is resolved daily. And it remains there. And then, of course, when you wake up, you know that you didn't die, you were very much there, and it's the same entity that is woken up. So, avasthatraya sakshi, that aham is in the form of destruction-free existence. That satyam, that awareness, is really the meaning of the word I, satyam. That aham which is there across all experiences, that aham which is there in all three states, which is the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state. That aham is unchanging. It is satyam. Trikale api tishtati iti satyam. That which exists in 3 periods of time is satyam. And that is you. Vigrahendriya pranadhitamaha nahameka sat tajjadam hyasat. Reflecting the mantra from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, na iti, neti, neti. I am not the vigraha, I am not the body, I am not the indriya sense organs, I am not the prana, the mind, the sleep. They are all jadam, they are all inert, they cannot function on their own, they are unreal. I am that reality which is one, which is non-dual. That is the truth. How can we better understand this? When you look at a black iron ball, if it is heated, it appears red. The cold black iron appears red because of fire. The mind, which is jadam, appears conscious because of chetanam, that is consciousness, or that, like the cold appears hot because of fire. So the jada upadhi, the body-mind sense complex, appears conscious because consciousness is in and through this body-mind, just like fire is in and through that black iron ball. And so the ahankara is born because of avidya. It doesn't know who it is, identifies with the gunadharma, gunas of the upadhis, fat, short, young, old, tall, etc., karta, bhokta, etc. And so even when the ahankara takes itself to be limited, it still is limitless. Aham, aham. In this way, it shines. That I, really speaking, the reality of that aham has no problem. If at all there are any problems, they are only at the level of the body and mind. So to deal with that, we have the framework of dharma, we have the need for bhakti and karma yoga in our lives. If I am really the problem, then I cannot tackle it. But I is free from all the problems. You know, in some of the temples in the south, we chant this mantra from Kathopanishad during the Aarti, which is such a beautiful time when you are looking at the Devata and with Karpura, you're doing the Aarti and we say, Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam, nema vidyuto bhanti kutoya bhaklihi, tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam, tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Which means that the sun does not shine there The moon does not shine there. Then what am I doing with this little flame that is trying to light you up? But what is it that shines always? It is that consciousness. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam, by which everything else is known. And what is that consciousness? It is that I, when understood as the Atma. 23. Sattvabhasika chitva vetara sattaya hi chit chittaya hyayam. Reflecting this mantra that I just chanted, is there another awareness which can illuminate this existence that is I? Can a flame really illuminate the sun? So awareness, consciousness is in the form of aham, I, and aham, existence, satyam, is in the form of that awareness. These two are not different. Then the question is, how am I related to Ishvara? Isha jivayor veshadhibhida sat swabhavataha vastu kevalam. Isha and Jiva. There seems to be a notion of division, difference. Why? Because of different upadhi. And the reality that we give that costume. But from the standpoint of Sat, which is the essential nature, which is the truth, which is only one, Vastu Kevalam, there is only one limitless reality. So because of avidya, ignorance, the notion of ahankara is there as the limited self. The truth of Ishvara, Isha, is Satyam. The truth of Jiva is Satyam. And that Satyam are not many, they are only one. Then how to understand this? Well, Tattvamasi, the Mahavakya reflected in Chandogya Upanishad, has a reflection in the next shloka, which is my favorite shloka. Veshahanataha swatmadarshanam ishadarshanam swatmarupataha. So both Isha and Jiva have Vesha, costume. And then what shall we do? Well, if we inquire into it properly, then there is the vision of oneself free from all limitations. And that is Isha Darshanam. That is one's own nature, Swatma Rupataha. So Darshanam we can have in the temple, but there we see that Devata is different from me. Here, Isha Darshanam is seeing that even Isha has a costume. He appears as Shiva, Vishnu, Devi, and with respect to the world has many, many different functions. So is Sarvagnya, Sarvavit, Sarvashaktiman, etc. And if I keep aside the function, then what is the Swarupa of Isha? It is Atma. The Jignasu, the one who, Nyatumichuhu, the one who wants to know the truth, is a type of Bhakta who has inquired into this Swarupa of Ishvara and recognizes that that is Swatma Rupataha. So really speaking, this Jagat is Ishvara, Isha. So Jagat Darshanam is Isha Darshanam. And Isha Darshanam is Atma Darshanam. This is the teaching of Vedanta, and Ramana Maharshi reflects this so beautifully from the time that we have started all the way into this self-inquiry. What is the nature of this Swatma Darshanam? Atma Samsthitihi Swatma Darshanam Atma Nirdvayat Atma Nishtata. To know the Atma is to be the Atma. Because knowing is not an act of knowing, but really in the light of Vedanta, the wrong notions, the wrong ideas that I had about myself, about the world, they go away. So to know the self is really Atma Darshanam, and that is one without a second. In this knowledge, one can abide. And the samsthiti is not a special state. It is what you always are. A lot of people present enlightenment as a special experience, not quite knowing that if it was truly an experience, any experience, be of samadhi, listening to music, eating your favorite food, is going to start, is going to end. And an experience happens to the one who takes the body mind to be the experiencer. But I, the Atma, is one who is in and through each and every experience. And even when I'm not experiencing, between two experiences. So this abiding in the Atma is not a special state. In fact, it is who I am, and therefore in every state there is the Atma. That is me. So all that is here is the Atma. The waves in the ocean cannot cover water. Sometimes we may think, oh, my thoughts are disturbing me, and then they are going to cover up the Atma. I must dwell. I am Atma. I am Atma. The truth is there no thought can cover the self-evident Atma that you really are. And so initially the person, the jignasu, the jiva, did things for the sake of fullness. Then when one is jeevanmukta, free while living, Isha Darshanam is Atma Darshanam, can do a lot out of the fullness that one is. There is nothing to be gained, and so one lives for Loka Sangraha and so on. Then how is abiding in the Atma, the knowledge of the Atma? 27. Jnana varjita ajnana hina chit jnanamasti kim jnatumantaram. That is true knowledge, which is free from knowledge of objects and ignorance of oneself and objects. So rhetorically, the shloka says, is there anything else to be known? So let me ask you a trick question. Are you the Atma, or are you the knower of the Atma? Knower of the Atma means Atma is an object of knowledge and you are the knower. By saying I am knower of the Atma, I have actually created Bheda, that I am the knower, I am different from the Atma. I am the Atma. If one says, then also that is closer to the truth than saying I am the knower of the Atma. So really speaking, all that is here is the Atma, the consciousness, the limitless being, and notions, I know, I don't know, etc., they don't really apply. A lot of truly wise people will not say, I know the truth, because all that is here is only the Atma. And by saying I know the truth, I am reducing it to a thought. It may be possible in some conversation, but I can't say I know, I can't say I don't know, because all that is there, all that is here is me, the Atma. Then a few concluding verses. Kim swarupamityatma darshane avyaya bhavat apurnachit sukham. With this inquiry that we conducted into the essential nature of oneself, it is this Atma Darshanam that one abides in. And what is the nature of the Atma? It is avyaya. There is no beginning, there is no end. It is ever Purna, it was never born. And it is Sukham. As jivas, we struggle with unhappiness. So dukkha. Because dukkha doesn't feel natural. We always want to return to being ananda, to being happy. Because in happiness, we experience a fusion of the subject and the object. So the object could be spending time with a loved one, or it could be eating some ice cream, or it could be watching a beautiful sunset. And we think that that object, the ice cream, the loved one, the sunset, is responsible for my ananda. Actually, if that was the case, then the sunset, the ananda, the ice cream, and that person should universally make everyone happy. But that's not the case. There are some people who just don't like ice cream, and then who your loved one is, somebody else has divorced that person. Okay. So the Shastra, and here Ramana Maharshi, he's pointing out to the fact that abiding in the Atma is abiding in the Ananda, the fullness that you are. That is the basis of all subject-object relationships. That is based on all kinds of mutual dependence, where I depend on the plants depend on me in the context of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and so on. And if we look around in the world, all of the forms, they depend on each other. But really speaking, they are all pointing to the Atma that is independent, that is Ananda, that is limitless, that has no boundaries. And that Atma, that I am, is really Atma Darshanam. Then, Bandha Mukyatitam Paramasukham Vindati Ha Jivastu Daivikaha. This Atma, limitless, fullness, Param Sukham, is beyond Bandha and Muktihi. You know, these notions that I am bound, I am free, the Jiva who is really manifestation of Ishvara from the standpoint of the form is endowed with Devi Sampatti, divine qualities. The Gita refers to it. One full chapter is devoted to it. So that Jiva who has prepared himself, herself with adhikaritvam to undertake the self-inquiry, attains it here and now, is truly jeevanmukta. Who is the one that seeks moksha? The one who thinks he is bound. I am bound. I am a seeker is a notion, correct? Are you really bound? When you ask yourself, you understand these are ideas. All that is here is you. And the experience of bandha is false, is mithya. It has a status of dependent reality. It can be removed by inquiry. But initially, to begin the inquiry, the guru will accept that, yes, there is bandha. And so we will do the inquiry. So liberation, enlightenment is not an arrival. It is not an event. It is not an experience. It is you. This wise person is Jivan Muktaha, is free while living. So this is a little bit like this drunk fellow who's celebrating New Year's Eve. And it's 3 a.m. in the night. Everyone else has left the party. And one of his friends is still there. So now this drunk fellow says, oh, I want to go home. The drunk fellow is hosting the party. He is at home. So then the friend says, you know, you are already home. No. I want to go home. And he insists, he starts crying. Take me home, take me home. What kind of friend are you? You please take me home. So you know what the friend does? Very clever friend. He takes him out of the house and they go towards the lift, the escalator, not the escalator, the lift. And then they go down. He takes him to the gate. Then he brings him back across the gate. They cross it back into the building complex. They take the lift. He, with the key, he opens the door to the host's house and he says, see, we are home. And this drunk fellow says, wow, you are truly a friend. Everyone else left me and went, but you are my friend because you brought me home. So this is our journey. We think we are bound, and then we go all over and do all kinds of karma, which are a part of our responsibilities, which help us to prepare ourselves ultimately for the pursuit of moksha, to undertake the self-inquiry that I was always home. I never needed to go anywhere. I was home. I will always be home. I am that limitless Atma. And so one might still have a question, people do all kinds of sadhanas. How can you say it's so simple? So Ramana Maharshi, he concludes with the shloka, Ahamapetakam nija vibhavanakam mahadidam tapo ramanavagyam. This aham, the ahankara that was masquerading as the reality, is now destroyed. When we say destroyed, we have to understand this is badhitam. Badhitam means negated. The reality of the ahankara is negated. So the ahankara, I notion, associated with body mind, is seen as mithya, and I am that satyam, that is the basis of this ahankara. There are not two. There is only the atma, that is satyam. The ahankara depends on me. And so the ahankara that was presenting itself as the atma, as everything, no longer exists in the same way. And that is what we refer to as destruction because of the inquiry. And so what happens as a result of that? Nija vibhavanakam. So this aham is now the atma. Only the false notion that was born of ignorance has gone away. And idam tapaha, it is a great tapas, mahat tapaha, mahat tapas. So committing oneself to the inquiry of who this aham is in the light of the Shastra. Those are the words of Ramana, Ramana Vagyam. And with that, Ramana Vagyam, we complete Upadesha Saram. My prayers that Sri Ramana Maharishi's blessings be with all of you. Please visit the ashram in Tiruvannamalai. Please go to the temple where he prayed and was blessed, the Tiruvannamalai temple of Shiva. And please try to do the pradakshina around Arunachala. It's a very pleasant, beautiful 14 kilometers. Learn the teachings of Ramana Maharishi. And in that way, we will truly honor a jeevanmukta, a living, enlightened master who is still with us in the form of his blessings and his teachings. Om Shri Ramanaya Namaha. Om Tat Sat.